My name is Rudy Kalis. I'm a sportscaster here at Channel 4 WSMV TV in Nashville.
Okay, and Rudy, what prompted you to become a new sportscaster?
Well, the reason I became a sportscaster, I think, was I love sports. I'm fortunate to do that. Knew I'd never be good enough to be a professional athlete, and so just said to myself, if I could ever just be a broadcaster, I love play-by-play. If I could ever be around sports and be a broadcaster or play-by-play or something in that, it would be a wonderful way to make a living.
So you've won 4 regional Emmy Awards for what you do. How does that make you feel?
Well, we've won some other things too. They're regional Emmys, but we've gotten some national. It's just that I've been here so long that eventually you do something right. And I don't enter a lot of things, so it's nice to be acknowledged for some of the things that you do. But it's all just, you love your work, so you do what you do, and then if somebody else thinks it's worth something, then it's okay.
Do you believe living in specifically Nashville has helped you become as successful as you have been?
Yeah, I think so. Because Nashville is, to me, Nashville, people are real in Nashville. They can tell phony. I felt like when I came to Nashville, first of all, I didn't know anything. I was hired over the phone. I came down here. I thought people didn't wear shoes down south. I thought I'd stay in this one-horse town for a year. And 38 years later, I'm still here. So it was meant to be. But what I've realized about people here is they can tell. They're real. You can't outslick them. You can't be too phony with them. They can read through that stuff. And so I really like it. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. It's a wonderful place to live. And good Lord willing, I'm just going to stay here. So I don't know that I don't know if I could work somewhere else. I don't know if anybody else would want me. But I think for Nashville, the good Lord knew, and this is where I was supposed to be.
Have you ever thought about working and living somewhere else?
Yeah, I did some when I was younger. You always think that you ought to go on and maybe look for someplace else. And that's sort of the progression of things, but I'll bet it's been 20 years since I thought about that. I don't at all anymore. I want to live here. I want to grow old here. I want people to get to know me. I want to make an impact, and we've talked about that. And eventually, you want to stay somewhere long enough to make an impact so that people know who you are. We're all going to leave a legacy behind. I mean, you are too. The point is, what are we leaving behind? What will we be remembered for? And you can only do that, I think. It's helpful to be at a place for a long period of time so that people can see if you're for real and you become a part of who they are. I get a chance every night with a spirit, hopefully, with which I do my work to affect people. They have busy jobs and things going on. Now, if I go on and grumble and grouse and complain and yell and scream and be that kind of a sportscaster, I don't think that does anything for anybody. So I have to be who I am, and that's where Nashville fits.
Have you always been a very mellow person when it comes to work, or did you have to become that way?
No, I'm not. I don't want to be really mellow. See, there's a misconception, I think, in life right now, and certainly in broadcasting, that to be cynical, to be negative, to be critical, but to be sarcastic is a sign of intelligence. And I think that's bunk. Because all you got to do is if you love your work, there's a general enthusiasm that comes from you, natural. It's God-given. You love what you do. You love the people that you're around, and all you do is convey that enthusiasm, and that's all you do. So I don't want to be mellow. I'm just not a screamer. I just like what I do, and I like people, and I'm enthusiastic. I hope about what I do.
You seem very passionate about it.
I love it.
You can hear it in your voice.
Okay.
So I've read on your website that you're originally from Germany.
Yeah.
And you and your family immigrated here when you were 4.
5 years old. Yeah.
5 years old.
Came through New York. Yeah.
Does your heritage affect you in any way that you do your job or?
Yeah, I think so. It affects me in the fact that I grew up very introverted. My parents would speak English with broken accents, so there was always an introverted nature about me. My parents were very quiet, subdued people because people would say, "Where's your accent from? Who are you from?" And so my father, till the day he died, would say to me, "Son, shh, keep your mouth shut. Be grateful you have a job. Don't complain." And so there's this part of me that always grew up, never with a bravado sense of I'm important. I'm somebody more than that. It's to the other side. I've always tried to. I've jumped out of airplanes, gone skydiving. I've done all kinds of stuff just to prove to myself that I'm not a coward. And some of that comes from being an immigrant's kid, growing up without a real sense of security in who I am. So we're all a product of how we grow up, and that happens to be mine.
Your parents settled in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, once they came to the U.S., and that's where you grew up. How'd you like it there?
Well, it's all I knew. That was it. That was where our Lutheran mission sponsored us when we came to the United States. That's why we went there, and I grew up there. I didn't know there was much else different available. I mean, when I came to Nashville, Tennessee, and in January was able to play golf, it blew my mind. Because in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you don't play golf in January. And I said, good Lord, what have I been doing all these years? So that's another reason I love Tennessee. So that's where we're from. I don't have any real ties to it anymore. I knew some people from there, but I'm a Nashvilleian.
When you decided on colleges, you settled at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one thing that captivated you or caught your eye that made you choose mass communications as your major?
I thought about that. See, I didn't go there right away. Out of high school, because I was a kid who loved to fool around and have a good time, I tried college for a year and flunked out and spent 4 years in the military and grew up, and then came out of that with what's called the GI Bill, helped pay for school, and then I went to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I've wondered why I took it. I think, again, I was trying to prove to myself that I wasn't a coward. There was a guy in the last Air Force base that I worked at who was a radio disc jockey, and I thought that was so cool that he could, on the base, he was just telling us about records, and so I took kind of a radio production course just to learn to study after 4 years of being away from college. And I found out that there was a little ham inside, and I made the thought and the decision that I'd love to be around sports, and became the college sports director at the university and school, and that sort of snowballed, and also I said, this is what I want to do, and there you go.
Did you ever feel intimidated, maybe being an older, in your older 20s, or?
Not that. I was 20, I was 19 when I went to service, so what was I, 23 or something, so it wasn't that much older. I don't think I ever recall feeling like I was older. And I was different. I was never part of a fraternity or anything. I never did any of that stuff because I was beyond that. I had other things. I had to have a job. I did stuff. So.
Soon after you graduated, you were offered a sports and news reporting position at a local Green Bay station, but you declined it. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
No, I didn't decline it. I went up there. I got the job in Green Bay. Here's another thing that you learn in broadcasting-wise. I always tell people, get in the door. I've had people come to me in our sports department here, had an intern one time walk in and say, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing an internship. Now, I need to tell you, I sent a resume to ESPN, and I'm expecting a call from them any day now, so I might not be here very long. And I said, oh, okay, good for you. Of course, he never got the call. And he was all, so what I'm telling people is, I have people that say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Well, if you want to get in broadcasting, get in the door. And that's what my job offer in Green Bay was to be an assistant producer, help write some newscasts, occasionally be a news reporter. Maybe I could fill in once in a while and do sports. I took the job because it got me in the building. I learned to shoot film. I learned to work. I eventually worked myself to that degree. So that's one thing I tell people. But I was never the sports director. I was there for 2 years and wanted to be. The sports director quit one day to do something else. And I'm going, ooh, this is my chance, and here you go. You find I was making $8,000 a year. I thought if I ever make $20,000 a year, I would retire. It's all that I need. And they had a consultant group that came and watched me, and because they got caught up on, I was auditioning for the job, and they called me in after a month and suggested I get out of broadcasting. They didn't like my style. You're going to have those things. They're going to happen to you in your life where people will tell you you're not good enough. And so then you get a chance to find out how bad you really want it. Are you going to listen to them? Are you going to be discouraged? Are you going to be angry about that? So I never was a sports director. But from that, I sent out resumes and tapes to other stations, and one of them was to Nashville, Tennessee. And I came here. Since you go to Lipscomb, one of my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 16:9. It says, in his life, a man plans his way, but it's the Lord who directs his steps. So if you look back at your life, and I look back at mine, and 90% of the time, the choices that I make, I feel like I'm making the wrong choices. I'm dumb. Come on, I don't figure this out. But when I look back at what's happened in my life, I can see exactly where God's hand was in it, all the way to where it is right now. That's why I was meant to be here.
When you're told that, in a way, you weren't good enough for that position, did your father's head kind of resonate in his mind?
Yeah,
kind of resonate?
it's back to, as a child growing up, one of two things happens to a lot of us growing up when we're younger, and it's usually in our teens. Either you have some, without even knowing it, my parents would say to me, because I had a sister who got straight A's, you're not going to amount to anything. You must study. You must do this. and I was a real little short kid. I was 4 feet 10 inches tall when I went into ninth grade. So all these kind of things. So you grow up with somebody putting that in your mind, possibly. I've had 80-year-old men tell me, coaches who told them they'd be, you're no good, sit down, and I'm around sports all the time. I listen. If coaches are rough on players, might be a teacher, parent, or else somebody says to you, you're magnificent. You know mathematics better than anybody else. You have an ability that is just, someday you're going to be great. And I'm convinced that there are a lot of us who spend the rest of our lives trying to prove somebody right or prove somebody wrong. And that was my thing, because of this introverted nature, because being told you're not going to, because of flunking out of school once and not getting this job. It was another thing of, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And so it's the reason that I still now jump out of airplanes, or go skydiving, drive race cars. I'm not a hero. I'm still trying to find out if I'm a coward. So we're doing that all our life. You too. All of your life, you're going to get opportunities. You're either going to expect people to do something for you, or you'll be told you're not good enough. And the question is, what are you going to do with it? Is it going to define you? Is it going to knock you down where you're not? I can't. That's it. They're not good enough. Or just something inside of you says, I refuse to quit. And that's good.
So your message is to persevere, to stick through it.
You got to do it. If that's what you want to do, you find out who you are. Life is a self-experiment. You find out. You're the only one that can go through your life. You're the only one that knows the feelings, knows the heartaches. You're the only one that knows the things that have happened and define you. You're your own self-experiment. Take stock of that. It's not what other people will always disappoint us, other people. It's a question of, first of all, it starts with faith. If you believe in your heart that He is God and He's your Lord and He has a plan for your life, then you look at life differently. Then you look at your setbacks as all right, why is this? What do I do? Where do I change? Where do I go? But I'm not going to quit. Good, keep going. Faith has you do that sort of stuff. That's why you're at that school.
Yes, it is. Is there one thing in particular, one single thing that drew you to Nashville? I know you love the city, besides the job.
One single thing that I what?
That drew you to Nashville, besides your job.
It was just, the only thing that drew me to Nashville was when I sent out resumes, one of them was to, at that time, this station was WSM. WSM TV was also WSM Radio. It was a Grand Ole Opry. I knew from people that I had talked to and researched that it was a good station, a good television station, and a good size market. This is the 30th market. So I picked stations at that level, and I didn't know who would, because I accepted a job to come here, and 1 hour, I think it was like 1 hour later, I got a call from a television station in Louisville that offered me a job there too. And for I don't know, a few bucks more or something, and I said, no, I'd given my word, I'm going to Nashville. Well, this is where I was supposed to be. So nothing specifically, except at that time, I was young. I was wanting to establish, I wanted to go to a good-sized television station and go to a market. Now, when I came here, I thought I'd stay a little while, and then I was going to go off to New York or someplace big, and good Lord had other plans. Those are choices you just got to make.
So you're pretty happy with everything that you've done.
What do you think? I've been here 38 years. I met my wife here. My children were born here. I gave my life to Christ here in this city on October 10th, 1978. You think I want to go somewhere else? A man plans his way and the Lord directs his steps.
I was just looking forward to your answer.
You were looking for what kind
I was
of?
just looking forward to your answer. I knew it was going to come.
Oh, okay.
Was there ever a low point in the beginning of your career when you got really discouraged and questioned yourself and questioned your...
Oh, sure. You get them all along the way here. Because I was here for 4 years. I worked here for 4 years with a sports director, and I thought, this is where you are. And then he left for another opportunity, and I thought I should have been the sports director. I've been here 4 years. I thought, this is it. I was 31 years old. I always said, if I'm in the right place at the right time, that job's going to be mine. And they didn't hire me. Maybe it was immaturity, if there was ever a reason. And that's the kind of thing, again, because of the school you go to and what that school stands for. It was a point in my life where I sat there and said, God, I mean, for almost for the first time. I'd been raised in a Christian school, but I walked out of church when I was 18 years old because I got tired of being around phony people, and I was going to make my own decisions in life. And all of a sudden, the hardest thing for me is my pride. It eats me up. I mean, I want to be somebody. And I was a young guy wanting to be, and all of a sudden I was told I wasn't good enough. Again, that same little kid, that immigrant kid growing up, coaches holler, or parents telling you not good enough, or Green Bay, all again, I didn't get the job. And it was the kind of thing where I sat and I remember driving down the road one day here on downtown, and I'm hitting the steering wheel of the car, and I'm saying, God, help me. I'm sick and tired of being phony. Everything I think that I'm doing or plan or try to do, it all falls apart.